You've stumbled into some kind of show. Maybe you lost a bet and you're like, oh no, I got to listen to a podcast. Which one should I listen to? And you happen to stumble into Binge-Watchers podcast. Yours truly, Johnny Spoiler. I love to spoil movies, mostly the ones I actually enjoy. Joined as always by the savage Scream Queen herself, who just got acknowledged as the Savage Scream Queen by Podcast Delivery all over them channels and their reviews. So I guess it's legit. You've been legitimized. A news outlet recognizes your savageness. The Savage Scream Queen herself, Jordan Savage.
I love it.
No, it's legit.
It's for real.
Let's see. So we have a movie. Tonight's movie, we're leaving like the throwback movies to bad romances. Tonight's movie kind of fits in because the Superman actor is behaving badly in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to back the train up a little bit as we roll into romance month. Yuck, cooties, gross, all that stuff. Shared bodily fluids. Emotions running high. Apparently there's a trend in dry dating, which sounds awful to me. But this is basically, people going on intentionally sober dates. Going out of their way to stay sober on the dates. I get it. You're trying to stay safe out there. Not trying to take any chances. Any accidental babies. Or,
it happens.
Morning after pill guilt and all that other stuff. But you know what I think about sobriety? I think that sobriety is for quitters.
Too good. You know what? I've done dry January. I've been a quitter for the last 3 weeks. And
I've seen your socials. I've seen your socials and I've been grinding my teeth about I need to pull this girl aside and have a serious discussion. What are you doing?
Here is my thought though. It is so less expensive to dine out when you don't.
Oh.
We were amazed. We went and had this fantastic Italian dinner date the other day, and the bill was only like $60. And it was like, oh my God, this is incredible.
Which is actually, you're like, oh man, $60, that's outrageous. Actually, that's like the fast food bill. You get a couple of combos.
Oh my gosh.
At a fast food joint, and it's already $60.
Taco Bell on a Saturday morning at 7:30 in the morning, $65.
60 bones right out the door.
Yeah, when you're all hungover. So maybe people are doing it to be cheap dates. I was thinking dry dating is where you go like a month without dating, which sounds kind of cool.
Thing.
I was like, maybe.
I'm only sober when I'm broke, and I've been broke for like 2.5 months. As you know, we've discussed it behind the scenes. However, I would be liquid right now if I was, if I was liquid, I'd be a total lush. What do they call that? Your love? What do they call that? Your love mechanism? What do they call that thing?
Your love language?
Oh, love language. Johnny, what's your love language? It's called a fucking beer bong. Give me the luge. Send the shots down the frozen statue.
My love language is crispy chicken skins, so.
Oh, yeah, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
Just take out stock in KFC.
There you go. Sold.
You're like, well, what you don't know is we met at a KFC or something. Open casting. This is a weird term. They're taking a casting term and turning it into a dating term. This is basically trying to date against typecasting. What is typecasting? It's a freaking... a TV term where it's basically like you get boxed in as a character. They're like, Jordan, you're like a movie critic, so you're going to play the movie critic. And you're like, no, I want to play the barbarian or something. Or,
right.
Or you're like, you're in the Lifetime movie, but you're just the best friend. You're never the lead. You're like, because you've had you've been sidekicking it, so we just think you're the best sidekick. We're not
only sidekicks.
We're not going to let you shine. Get out of the limelight. Just go back to, stage right or whatever.
Yeah.
Something like that. So, but in dating terms, it sounds like a good idea. Like if you're not meeting expectations and your dream person is like adding up to be a monster and you're like, this is not working out. This Frankenstein, when I click the app and I put in all the things I want and the people that I'm getting are just atrocious. Then yeah, maybe you go to a short king or short queen or something in between. And you
the in-between queen.
The in-betweenies. They got odd-sized jeans and the shoe sizes don't fit, but they, have to shop at the outlet stores. Anyway.
Love it.
And the last thing is people were tired of being locked down, so they're wandering around. They're traveling to other cities to date or other states, maybe some other countries. I don't know. That seems like a lot to do, to leave the country to date, but I guess it happens. Wander love.
Wander love. That's a new term for me.
And then I was like, what's the Google trendy? What's the search engine trend for, like, what are couples doing? Well, as it turns out, folks, they're just being boring as usual.
Not drinking.
Not drinking. Like, spending all their money at Taco Bell, apparently. It's the same old things for that. It's like, oh, they're considering a threesome. They're considering bringing in younger partners. Some of them, it says the ones that have been married for a long time are considering same-sex arrangements while also being married.
Interesting.
That's less than 9%. That's less than 19%. So I don't know how that's going to come down. That's like, seems like a very specific group of people that they always end up being politicians. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like, hey, we got the video, dude. You know what I mean? From the yacht club. Like, and you weren't there with your wife, all right? Anyway, it's always the same old story. Imagination can run wild, but we're not here to talk about yacht clubs or secret videos. We're here to talk about home video headlines. What's going on? Warner Brothers has probably scooped up the Christopher Reeve Sundance documentary Super or Man, which I guess is going to be about, like, I don't know. They're saying it's killer. It was purchased at Sundance, premiered at Sundance this year, and it's actually a documentary about Christopher Reeve. Transition from, like, his horse riding accident to, like, what is his life afterwards. Obviously, he portrayed Superman, and then what did it mean after he was he's like completely paralyzed. Yeah, he was in a special chair. They had to develop special equipment for him, special ways to exercise. He's like, 99.9% or whatever, like full paraplegic or something. I don't know exactly what the terms are, but
quadriplegic.
Yeah, but then he continued to, he actually continued to be an actor. He was in TV shows and movies. They even did a remake of a Hitchcock movie, Rear Window, where he played the main dude in that. And he was still like an outspoken person in the industry. So
let's go. Let's go, Christopher Reeves. I love that.
But it's crazy. We could live in a world where they could break Superman. You know what I mean? Broke his spine or something. What else is going on? Oh, WWE Raw is going to be on Netflix. I never actually asked you if you even liked
WWE
at all, or WWE, or before when it was WWF and WCW.
See, I remember the days of WWF. I think that I must have been on the cusp of it was on television, and I would definitely come across it while my brother was watching, and I know some of the popular ones, WWE.
But it's boys TV. It's a boy soap opera. I'm out.
I feel like I could get into it. I've watched some documentaries too, of where I'm they've got fascinating stories.
Always. Oh man, Vice TV, Vice Media, Dark Side of the Ring, hell of a documentary series.
Yeah, so I'd watch it. Why not?
Michael Keaton and Mila Kunis are going to be in a comedy called Goodrich, which actually sounds like a spiritual sequel to Mr. Mom. But he's playing an old dad with super young kids. And then, how it sounds like Mr. Mom is basically in Mr. Mom, he's a dad that loses a job, and then the mom goes to work in a corporate setting and is crushing it at work while he's trying to figure out how to raise his kids at home. And this one seems like an old dad who's not prepared to deal with the kids because his younger wife is the one usually dealing with the kids, and now he's got to deal with it. That's why it feels like, it's like a Mr. Mom 2, if you will. Sounds entertaining. I mean, Michael Keaton is the man. So.
I think so too. And for me, in my opinion, an unlikely, TV couple in a sense. I'm going to talk a little bit about that later today, but
what?
I feel like I'd love that. Just pairing.
Oh no, they're not a couple. She's not the young wife. No. She's actually playing the adult daughter. Mila Kunis is going to play the daughter.
Right. But in a sense of two, not necessarily a couple as in an engaged couple or a couple dating each other, but just being paired up or
you're saying this seems like an odd chemistry pairing, right? Mila Kunis and Michael Keaton in the same movie.
When you see a horse befriend a rabbit or something, do you know what I'm talking about? What was the term that I used earlier? But that's I feel like they'll be really fun to watch on screen. So yeah, I like it.
I would say the scenario was pretty likely. There's a lot of old dads, especially in like Beverly Hills, or like the 1%ers, the ones that have like had these business size enterprises, but then like, I'm 70, but my wife is 30.
Still getting after it.
We have 2-year-olds, or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or they're like, their young wife gets pregnant and they're like, 82, and it's like a 2-year-old. Like,
again, another scenario with the yacht club.
It's wild. Yeah, yacht club is active today. Okay.
No, man. It has its own OnlyFans now. Yacht club OnlyFans.
Believe it.
Must suck to be the guy that has to clean the yachts, though.
There's a lot of guys that clean the yachts.
Who knows what's going on?
Of course I do. I've watched so much of what was it, Below Deck. Let's go.
Oh yeah, Below Deck. They're like, those poor bastards. What goes on below deck stays below deck, unless it's televised.
Yeah, unless it's televised.
Unless it's on TV. Tonight's movie. Desperate journalist concocts a story about a murderous pimp that makes him the toast of the town, but his lie is too close to the truth of a very real, very dangerous criminal. Christopher Reeve and Morgan Freeman star in Street Smart. And now let's see if Jordan can live up to her reputation and drop some savage stats on us.
Some savage stats.
Yeah.
So
street stats.
Street stats could be savage stat, street smart. I don't know, something along the lines.
Too many S's.
Lots of S's. So Christopher Reeve had this script in possession for a really, really long time before he agreed to make it. He had read a few pages of the script and felt that it wasn't for him, threw it in essentially a pile where it was going to live in the graveyard of all these other scripts that he wasn't going to pick up. But a few weeks later, he decided to pick it up and try it again and instantly liked the script and then made this his next project, this material, his very next project. So that the Canyon Group, they actually agreed to finance this film as a pet project.
Not the Cannon. Like cannon that you fire out of a cannonball out of a cannon.
Might be slurred my words here late.
I just wanted to back it up for a second, make sure we addressed it correctly, because movie boys are gonna freak out because the Canyon Group is well known for all these cheesy popular B movies from the 80s and 90s. So.
Well, what do you know?
And the Canyon Group, they make movies about wicker chairs and wooden furniture. So just want to differentiate the two organizations.
The Canyon Group, you got it. But of course, it was on the condition that he did at least one more Superman film, which they had recently acquired the rights to. So this ended up resulting in...
Wait a minute. Okay, so he's agreed to do Street Smart. Is that how we get to Superman 4?
You got it.
Oh, the notorious Superman sequel. Hilarious. Wow. Dang. What a deal. I think this might be a hit, but by the way, you have to produce the next Superman that I'm going to be in. Oh. And then if anybody knows what happened to that movie, it was a disaster. So.
Well, and this one wasn't necessarily a hit either. It was like widely liked by audiences and critics, but it didn't do entirely well. So
yeah, I mean, understandably, because you know why I wanted to watch this? I was like, I should start explaining why we picked the movies we picked. It's because like I wanted a Christopher Reeve movie that wasn't Superman.
Oh my god,
there's only a handful. So if you've already seen like Somewhere in Time, and there's only one other one where he plays an actor who another playwright wants to steal his play that he's written, so he's going to consider murdering him. But I just thought, like, I don't want to watch him play an actor with another actor trying to kill him. I wanted to watch him in, like, a serious movie or whatever.
Well, yeah, and this was it. This was pretty serious. So we'll talk
not
a little
as
bit
serious
more
as
about
this theme song that I forgot to play.
Crack open a cold box of wine or pour something cold on ice because it's the Binge-Watchers podcast.
Let me ask you this. If you play your theme song halfway through the show, does it still count as an opening theme song?
It does, in my opinion. I mean, anytime I get to see the TV on fire with a bowling ball, still only seen it like twice or 3 times.
Yeah,
So
for the folks that are watching instead of listening, you get an extra treat.
it is a little treat.
Yeah.
One of the locations that was used was the old Seville Theater. It's a rundown section of St. Catherine Street in Old Montreal Forum. By that time, the theater had closed for quite some time, and they redressed it as an adult movie theater. And it's perfect, especially for this movie.
Wait a minute.
However,
So they used this little broken down theater side street in Montreal as 42nd Street in New York?
essentially,
Holy
yeah.
crap.
Yeah.
It looks like CD New York.
It's like
70s and 80s.
Well, and it kind of became a lot of contention in the relationship with Christopher Reeve because they were trying to cut a lot of cost corners to create the film. And so Christopher
He
Reeve
seems frustrated in almost
in the
every
movie.
scene.
Yeah, he's like just brooding. Yeah. I mean,
Like,
there was a lot.
He's not doing so. He's like not acting so well that we think that he really feels guilty about writing a fake news story. It's actually really because he's frustrated with the production.
With the production, yeah, it was all the way from where they're filming on location to non-union workers to create the film. So there was a lot of contention during the creation of this. But the theater actually became a historical monument, and they're not allowed to tear it down. So that's pretty cool.
I think there's a little plaque on the side of the building that says "Street Smart filmed here."
I hope so. I hope so. And then Morgan Freeman was nominated for this movie as Best Supporting Actor, despite having appeared in The Electric Company, 1971. But Freeman,
which that's a huge leap. The Electric Company is a children's show, and then he goes and he plays a pimp.
Yeah,
dang, dude.
But he even goes as far to consider Fast Black, his character's name, to be his breakthrough role. So, and he says that it's his favorite Oscar nomination performance. So,
I wonder I would wonder when that quote came out, though.
I'm sure who knows if that was a long time ago. But I mean, that's pretty cool.
I mean, I can't see him saying that after Shawshank Redemption.
True, maybe.
It plays Red.
Yeah, that would be curious to find out. But that's it. Savage stats for Street Smart. Wrapped up.
And we'll be right back after these messages with our favorite bits from Street Smart. Let's see what's going on. Love Honey has a 50% off sale. You can get our Love Honey affiliate code in the podcast notes. They have Valentine's Day promotions going on. And let's see, they have gifts for her, gifts for him, gifts to share, and gifts to wear. So grab our Love Honey affiliate code and see what all the naughty gifts they have available on their website. Also, we have a W Energy partnership. You can get 10% off with our code SPOILER. No sugar, no crash. 150 milligrams of caffeine per serving with our link bit.ly/SpoiledW. That'll also be dropped in our podcast notes on the website. Wherever this episode lives, you'll be able to get these links if you're interested in Love Honey or W Energy. Before the show started tonight, Jordan was asking me about the energy drink I was drinking. I was like, it's the blue one? We almost had an entire show just of energy drinks. We could definitely
we could pull it off.
Besides movies, it's energy drinks for her.
That's about it.
Taco Bell,
yeah.
chicken skins, but Now we're sponsored by KFC, but specifically their new combo, which is just the skins. I don't know if they've ever done that. Has the store ever just sold hey, we got a chicken skin combo?
Yeah, that would be so good. I would love that.
Just
or as a side instead of fries.
Actually, you know how all the food trucks are novelties? Could you imagine if there's a food truck just the skins and it's just fried chicken skin?
You get fried chicken skins. You could get what is the potato? Have you ever had the potato skins?
Wait, we also just the really skins. Yeah, but it would have to be thin like the chicken skin, right? Yeah. So it wouldn't be a wedge or. No, because they call potato skins, but they're really baked potatoes with a bunch of stuff dumped in them.
No, I'm talking about potato skins.
You're talking about it'd be a thin
Yes.
flat rectangle of like, here's the potato skin.
Yeah, I worked
Dang.
at this restaurant that would like obviously skin
Everything's
the
the
potatoes.
skin.
Yeah.
Everything on this truck is the skin.
It'd be so good. And then you just make them like delicious, just like you would do like a
Dang.
baked potato, but potato skins.
Speaking of
You heard
skins,
it here first.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Our next brand franchise will be just the skins. But I was about to say, speaking of skins, there's some flesh in this movie that gets peddled, and these are our
There
favorite
is.
bits from Street Smart.
Mm.
What do you got, Jordan Savage?
I loved Punchy. I mean, she's just such a character. She's definitely one of my favorites.
Oh crap! I turned my phone into silent mode or airplane mode, so I can't look it up. I was gonna look up I forgot to write down.
Kathy Baker is her name.
Oh, Kathy Baker. Yeah. So for me, if it's a choice between trying to wake up Mimi Rogers at home for ordinary, boring couple sex, or hooking up with Kathy Baker Punchy on the streets for a weird fantasy. Like, first of all, like, she doesn't do herself any service when she talks about, and there's a scene where it's a sexual fantasy, but it's about a crippled Russian, actually.
It was her first time.
Yeah. So Punchy tells a story about how she had to service and seduce a man whose friends bought him the date, and he was like in a wheelchair, or like he was like partially paralyzed.
I could help you tell it.
But she's using that story to turn on
him on.
Reeves,
that was
turn
like
on the reporter.
One of my favorite bits.
And so you just wonder what's the real power dynamic if he's into that, but he doesn't want to hook up with Mimi Rogers. But I'm just saying, my choice between the two is I would have actually gone for Mimi Rogers, who's just at home, wondering if her reporter boyfriend's ever going to show up.
Right. And not be messing around with.
Go ahead.
Help
me with the Russian story.
Well, I just liked that story. He's like trying to be a journalist. He's trying to be investigative and learn more from her. He also sort of has a crush on her. So he's like, how did you get into this? What was the first time?
He's an Ivy Leaguer. He sits at a typewriter all day. He's clearly never experienced anything like this. None of them have, because they then invite the pimp to a party later, where there's kind of like the freak show. You know what I mean? Like they want to put the pimp on display at their little caviar and sushi party. You know what I mean? Right. The editor of the magazine that he's writing the story.
But my favorite part too was like when Punchy and when he goes in, Fast Black goes into the party. He's like, oh, this is so and so, and she goes, yeah, I know him, and he's like, well, how do you know him? It's like,
oh yeah,
how do you
like? There's the party is filled with like 7 of her customers or whatever, her regular.
He's the life of the party because she knows all of the men at the party. I thought that was hilarious. And going back to what I had mentioned earlier of like unusual couples, right? You always see the videos of like a duck and I don't know, like a freaking eagle becoming friends or something, I really thought that Jonathan Fisher, the reporter, played by Christopher Reeve, and then Morgan Freeman, who plays Fast Black.
Or Leo, his real name is like Leo.
Leo, yeah. And I was like, I thought that the movie was gonna be the story of like how they become.
Oh, you're like buddy. You thought you were in like a buddy cop adventure.
I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. Like you were gonna
they're gonna challenge the system together. And like
they're gonna break the status quo.
No, we're not gonna break any stereotypes here. We're gonna drill them into everybody's head. Yeah.
And I just was like, oh, this was not the movie that I thought that this was gonna be. So that ultimately was my favorite bit because I was like, took a complete 180. I won't spoil it in case you are. And I just was like so floored by how the end of this movie is, which is
I'm on the fence about this because the spoiler also is like the most shocking element of the movie.
It is.
And if I say it, it's like the effort to watch the movie is kind of ruined. So it's like
teaser. Yeah.
It's out of spoiler range because it actually affects the plot, right?
So that is what I said.
But I will say they freaking stabbed the girlfriend, which I also thought was like outrageous. Like
I know
to threaten the reporter, they're like he sent his little goon to cut up his girlfriend at the freaking farmer's market.
Yeah, she's getting flowers.
I was like, okay. I was like, okay, all right. The movie took a turn. Because everything you're right before that was kind of like on the surface.
Yes.
Right? Nobody really had street smarts, but we weren't really seeing the streets. It wasn't really grimy. It was almost like almost like CW, like cookie cutter, like plot points. Like, is it really going to be that much street? But no, like they like person shank Mimi Rogers, the girlfriend, unsuspecting fiance at the farmer's market with her yuppie friend, and the way it's done, it like comes by really fast, and then she doesn't even at first realize that she's been stabbed.
Yeah, he pretends to run into her like by accident,
Yeah, like,
and
sorry,
stabs her.
lady, while you're looking at the apples or whatever. But the fact that they took it there, I was like, okay, all right.
Well,
and
Punchy's character too, I was like, I didn't want anything bad to happen to her because she's so likable, and
well, and here's the danger of the movie. Just like, well, here's where they actually did a really good job. So the pimp brings you in with charisma, interesting stories. He seems to be getting along with all his people, taking care of all his people. And then, like, he has sudden bursts of violence and control, which is like, oh, that's exactly how they say the playbook goes. You know what I mean? They're charismatic, they make you feel comfortable, and then wham, you get punished. So, yeah, so when he, like, punishes her outside the diner, yeah, because he locates it with that barbecue place, right? Yeah. So when he smacks Punchy,
I think they're like after the party, they're getting some food at like a food truck or something, and he just like hits her right in the face.
Yeah, so it starts to fall apart. You start to go like, okay, we're not gonna, even though our guard's been super lowered. So the movie did these parts kind of right. It lowered your guard for the pimp's attitude, and then it takes it to the streets.
Yes, and did not disappoint in my opinion. So.
I just like Christopher Reeve. And I didn't realize like the size of the dude either until I watched this movie.
So massive. He's so tall.
I mean, there's a titillating tub scene, and I'm like, oh, he has really giant feet. This guy's a massive dude.
I didn't notice his feet.
I was like, he's trying to fit into this tiny tub. You know what I mean? I was like, it's almost like Andre the Giant decided to take a bath, and then gets a phone call from the magazine. Although I don't like some of the stereotypes that I don't like. I'm talking about the pimps and the prostitutes. I was proud of Morgan Freeman in the beginning where he stuck up for one of his ladies, though. I'll say that.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't care. I mean, the reporter clearly comes from a pretty clean cut background, did okay for himself, went to a good school. I think they mentioned he went to Harvard a couple times.
Yep.
And then, like, he has a good apartment, seems to be doing okay, works for, like, the most popular magazine in the city or whatever. Is trying to get bigger profiles in the magazine. But then, like, the fact that he does then cheat on his girlfriend. You know what I mean?
But you already know that his morality can be tested because he lies in the first place. He fabricates
a novel out of a magazine story that's supposed to be the truth from the streets.
Well, yeah, he makes up a story, and it just so happens to be coincidence that the Fast Black's character is being prosecuted for a crime, right? And it sort of meets the description, and so it's like his Jonathan, the character, his morality can already be kind of questioned. So it doesn't seem that slippery of a slope to me.
All right, now let's question how you rate the movie. First of all, we go binge now, binge later, binge never. If you binge something now, you got to move it to the top of your movie list. Forget what's on Netflix. Go watch Street Smart, which we found on Tubi, actually. Or you can binge later, put it on the list, but there's no rushing out. It's not that exciting. Or binge never, which somehow Jordan convinced me a few weeks ago that it doesn't actually exist because why? Do you remember why?
Never say binge never. Because if it's a movie,
if we say don't watch it, it might make somebody actually watch. It might do the opposite effect.
Right.
It might make somebody watch it.
Something that haunts you forever. Like some of these, not even like in a bad way.
Oh, you're saying the movie lives with you.
It lives with you. Like one of the movies that I did binge never for last year ended up being one of the movies that I thought about the most. So never say binge never.
Okay.
But I rate this one binge now. I was so surprised.
I was almost afraid to send you this movie.
They had me fooled. I was like, oh, this is going to be a wonderful story of how the pimp and the journalist become friends. And then I was like, oh, this is not that movie. And so I liked that it wasn't, sometimes don't like movies that are just so predictable, and this was not predictable for me. And so I was interested. I honestly, Jonathan gets some street smarts by the end of it. And so it was awesome. And it's got an excellent cast. So binge now for me.
Okay. I feel guilty about liking the movie. I feel guilty about being interested in the movie because it's exploitation, right? They're both fulfilling stereotypes. And like, I'm like, does this make me super white to want to watch this movie and go along with it? Does it make me a champion of stereotypes? I don't know. You know what I mean? I just like Morgan Freeman and I just like Christopher Reeve. You know what I mean? I just want more Christopher Reeve movies. So yeah, so it's a binge now because he only has a handful of movies. And so you have to find them, and it's kind of like Pokemon. Gotta catch them all, gotta watch them all. That's how it goes. So yeah, so binge now, street smart. And as you mentioned, it's iconic for Morgan Freeman. So
yeah,
Oh, fan service. So Nikki O, not to be confused with the previous Nikki that is like one of our collaborators. Nick O asked us to review what is it called? Rumble something. Hold on. I'll make myself look bad. I know this movie. I've seen it. Oh, Ready to Rumble. Okay, so in like the year 2000, Ready to Rumble comes out. It's a wrestling movie. It celebrates wrestling and wrestling fans. I think it like illustrates how it really is sports entertainment. And because it's a comedy, I guess one could assume that it's making fun of wrestling fans and wrestlers. It's not really doing that. It's Scott Conn, which is James Conn's son, and then David Arquette. And after this movie, David Arquette becomes a real freaking wrestler. And there's actually a documentary called David Arquette Can't Be Killed or something like that, or Can't Die. And it's about his struggles to be taken seriously as a wrestler because, again, like he goes to what might have been WWF or WCW at the time, but then he goes to like some wrestling events and he wins a belt. And so the established wrestlers are like, well, this guy has no credit with us here. So why are we giving him? It could tie into the movie promotion. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So he wants to like win their respect as a real wrestler, and has been a wrestler for like 20 years now. Yeah, he like got into it during the movie and then stayed with it. Diamond Dallas Page, who's like a career wrestler, has pretty good things to say about David Arquette in the wrestling world, and the movie is pretty entertaining. And they make funny characters. Oliver Platt plays like a Hacksaw Jim Duggan / Randy Savage / Jerry the King Lawler mixed with a little bit of because it kind of like an amalgamation, right? Like of like 4 or 5 real wrestlers to make a character of like a famous wrestler within the world of the movie. And again, it's like now that we're 20 years or so from the year 2000, we should be going back and be like, oh, let's get some of those movies out and watch some of them. And this should be on your list if you're a comedy fan anyway, and you want to see like what's going on with comedy at that time. It feels very like the year 2000, that movie. Did you ever see it? Probably not. You're like, my brother was a wrestling fan. Although one could argue that a girl who likes to eat chicken skins is the perfect date to take to a wrestling event. You know what I mean? So
I would totally go to one. Absolutely. Yeah.
Let's see. Where are we now? Okay. That was fan service. Oh, staff picks? Did you watch anything else you want to recommend to the audience that isn't Street Smart or the movie of the week?
We're watching too much true crime. It's too much that's out there. It's like, I don't know. I could spend all day talking about that.
That'd be really funny if the next title of one of those shows is like, that'd be really, like, the next thing would be like, Too Much Murder premieres next week on Netflix.
Literally, murder. Yeah, that's what it feels like in my life right now. There's just been so much that's going on, like currently in current events. It's just like sparking all of these, documentaries and other things that it's just like, I'm consuming a lot of content. It's just not necessarily movie related. So
So I watched this other movie, Quicksilver, which is about a Wall Street banker that loses all his parents' money on a bad trade. It's Kevin Bacon. Then he becomes a bicycle messenger, and then Lawrence Fishburne is one of the other bicycle messengers, and he gets run off the road by a drug dealer. And then so the movie is, the Kevin Bacon characters witnessed it happen. So the drug dealer spends the rest of the movie trying to chase him down. And then there's also like a Dirty Dancing scene, like where he's dancing on his bicycle with his dancer girlfriend. So and I'm like, which one came out first? Like, did they add the bicycle dancing scene because of the popularity of Dirty Dancing, and they had to make sure they had a dancing scene in this movie too? I'm not sure because I didn't look up which one came first. But I was on the fence again. Like, I almost put Quicksilver in for the movie of the week instead of Street Smart because I wasn't sure how you were going to react to Street Smart. You know what I mean? So, but I'm glad you liked it anyway.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, for sure.
Man, come back next week and we'll have like more podcasts.
More podcast.
And more romantic ideals that have nothing to do with dry dating, but maybe more chicken skins.
And more energy drinks, probably. Most likely. Yeah. So, always.
You ever have Thunderbird, which is like a $7 wine?
No, but I love $7 wine. That sounds amazing.
It's also the only grapes that taste like battery acid, but I was just thinking, like, if I had to pair your chicken skin to something on a date, I'd be like, oh, Thunderbird.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like I could go for a wine and chicken skin pairing right now. It sounds amazing.
Okay. I mean, now I'm thinking about a book, a whole culinary release.
Yes, I need to
chicken skin.
go get my sommelier certification just so I can make chicken skin pairings or weird pairings like that.
You just visit like these chicken restaurants across the country and like pair their skins to different wines.
Yes, see, yeah.
You can pre-order now.